A lot of people don't even realize that if you're injured on a boat or on a jet ski, that's a special type of personal injury case. They don't even know that. But it's a little bit different. So, what are the differences between a maritime injury case and an auto collision injury case?
Hi everyone, my name is Eric Mausner. This is my law partner Tom Graham. We are personal injury lawyers in Miami, Florida. Thanks for stopping by our channel. On this channel we talk about various issues, cases, law changes, news, anything personal injury related and related to the industry.
Sometimes we'll get clients that'll call in and they'll be like, I was hurt out on the water, so I guess international law applies, what's going to happen. And it's a very complex, unique area, maritime law. We love it here. We do a lot of it, all different types of it. And I think it's fascinating, but it's a little different than car accident cases, right?
Yeah, it's very different. I often hear a lot of lawyers, especially in South Florida, oh, maritime cases they're just like any other personal injury case, or they're just like injuries at hotels or on injuries on other premises. And I don't agree with that. I think maritime law, and Tom, you're the maritime lawyer, but from my vantage and my perspective, it's a complex area of law with a lot of moving parts. I think it takes a practitioner like a minimum 5-10 years in that space to really get comfortable. You're talking about federal law, you're talking about complex maritime law, state law. There's different, agency law applies as well.
Yeah, it does.
So, sure. I mean, there's a lot of different bodies of law that apply. It's not like an auto accident. An auto accident can be simple state law, very simple fact pattern. You don't have to worry about jurisdiction. They're very different. I mean, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think the example might be, and we love our car collision clients as well, but I would say the comparison, auto law and auto collision law, it's a little bit like going to McDonald's, right? Everyone knows you can go in, you know what you're going to order, you know what it's going to cost, you know what it's going to taste, and it's pretty much mass produced and there's a process, and of course there are differences and we take it super serious, but it's a known entity, right? But like you said, maritime law, there could be major changes in what you need to do, major differences in the legal requirements, major differences in what you need to do to dig down on the facts, where you can file your lawsuit, when you have to file your lawsuit. It's totally different. So it's like McDonald's versus a Michelin restaurant.
Here's an example. If you're injured on a cruise ship, let's say Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, the back of your ticket says the statute of limitations is 1 year, right? And you have to provide 6-month notice as well.
That's correct.
And you have to file the case in the Southern District of Florida, which is federal court. Mm-hmm. That's not the case with auto accidents.
Right.
Auto accidents in Florida, you file them in the county they occurred or where the defendant resides, for example. Mm-hmm. And you can keep your auto accidents in state court. If you try to file a maritime case in state court, you might get removed to federal court. And a lot of lawyers in Florida who do personal injury law don't want to be in federal court. The reason being is that the judge or the cases move very fast. They set these trial orders. They've got these fast deadlines.
Yeah.
You've got to hire your experts quickly, and experts are very expensive. I mean, to hire maritime experts or experts on most cases is $5,000-$10,000 out of the gate just to retain them, and then to do work and to pay for their travel. The costs go up. To have them sit for deposition, that their expenses could double. To bring them to trial or to court, triple. It just goes up and up and up, and those cases get very expensive, and a lot of lawyers don't want to touch them.
Totally. I mean, our big maritime cases, we'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the experts just to get the case ready. And what you bring up is interesting to me, because most people are probably thinking, all right, well, if I live in Ohio and I go on a cruise, or I live in Pennsylvania or Kentucky, wherever I go on a cruise, I fall and I get hurt, I'm going to file my lawsuit at home in Pennsylvania or Ohio or Kentucky. And that's not how it works. So even people that don't live in Florida, and attorneys miss this all the time, if you go on a cruise, you get hurt, you go back home and you call your local attorney in the Northeast or wherever you're from, Midwest, California, they need to file the lawsuit here in the Southern District of Florida for most of the cruise lines. So I think that's just an example of something that's unique. And oftentimes we'll get calls from other attorneys that don't know that. And they'll file their lawsuit or try to file their lawsuit at home in their state court, and they totally get poured out or dismissed. So, I mean, it's very unique, it's very different, and the types of remedies that you can achieve for your clients can be different. It's a whole nother ballgame. So I think when you're dealing with maritime, you really need someone, like you said, that's done the hard work for 5-10 years, climbed the rungs of the ladder, and knows this law.
Maritime's a niche industry. Anytime you are within a niche industry, whether it's medicine or law, you want to be with a practitioner who focuses on that regularly. They're going to have connections within the industry, right? The lawyers that's suing cruise ships might be familiar with the lawyers on the other side. Maritime has its own lingo and jargon. There's a ton of differences between maritime and auto, and that's why if you do find yourself injured on the water anywhere in the United States or in Florida, get yourself a lawyer that does maritime work regularly. You should not be with one of these big advertising firms that don't have a maritime lawyers. You should not be with a firm that does medical malpractice, for example, and auto, but they don't do maritime. You might be in the wrong place, even if you're with very competent lawyers.
True. And I think last I checked, in the United States, like 9 out of 10 adults are drivers, right? So like there's obviously a lot more car accidents. It's a lot more common. But I think the number of boat owners nationwide is like 14 to 15 million out of 600 million people, right? So you can see it's just such a smaller industry. This type of maritime injury type work, it's so much smaller, and what you said is absolutely correct. The relationships a maritime lawyer has, their immediate know-how on what they need to do in the case, what they need to do quick, and they're just able to understand the lay of the land immediately. It's a total game changer.
And how about just the fact that you have to prove notice in a lot of these cases? How does that affect how you prepare these cases? 'Cause notice is a big component of maritime, unlike auto, for example, right?
Absolutely. And what we do, particularly talking about the cruise line cases, because we get a lot of calls, a common thing that happens is slips and falls or trips and falls. We kind of have a knowledge of who has fallen before this person. And that's really critical, because here in the Southern District of Florida, the judges are almost making us prove our case right from the outset with these really tough motions to dismiss. So we have a body of knowledge at our firm where we're able to know who has fallen on what ship and where. And we'll actually set that forth in the complaint so that we're showing the judge from the outset we can prove or establish notice, or at least we have a reasonable belief we can establish notice, because it's a killer element in these cases.
Can you give a couple examples of kinds of maritime cases that we work on or that you see commonly?
Yeah. So like I just said, the most common in the cruise line context and oftentimes in the private context is slips and falls and trips and falls. On private boats, it happens a lot getting in and out of boats. People tend to fall and get hurt a lot embarking and disembarking. That happens all the time. In the cruise line context, we see a lot of negligent security type cases, oftentimes stemming from overservice of alcohol, okay? Where alcohol comes into play on the private side is boating under the influence. We have more than one case right now where someone got drunk and either caused a collision or hit something, that's called an elision, or ran over someone or hurt a passenger, okay? We see negligent operation of smaller boats, wave cases. Captains that are inexperienced will hit a wave so massively it'll break someone's back. We've handled a couple of cases like that. On the cruise line side, and this is an area that I find absolutely fascinating and I want to dig my teeth in and become the man on this stuff, is the sexual assault cases, because it's so unfortunate and it's rampant in the cruise industry. So the FBI actually keeps statistics on crimes at sea. They're required to keep these. And the numbers of sexual assaults, passenger on passenger, crew member on passenger, and things happening to children on these cruise lines, it's shocking and unacceptable. And we have a handful of those cases right now that we're vigorously fighting and vigorously moving forward. I think those cases are very unique. We have it on the cruise lines and private yachts, people being sexually assaulted, sexually abused on the private yachts, sometimes by the owners of these yachts. It's shocking and horrible, but it happens a lot more than you'd think. So, I mean, as you can see, we just went through a laundry list of almost anything bad that can happen on land. Medical malpractice happens on cruise ships. Anything bad that can happen on land will apply typically on these cruise cases or on these yachting or private boat cases, but the law is different. It's not that state court law. So that's why it's important you have a maritime lawyer.
So to summarize, the kinds of cases that we see on the water, the kinds of injury cases, can be medical malpractice, sexual assault, slip, trip, and falls on boats and cruise lines, and we also see a lot of boating collisions. We do see injuries involving jet skis and other watercrafts. We also see injuries even on power sailing trips as well. So any kind of negligent maintenance, any kind of injury on the water, we can help. I think that wraps up for today. Thanks for stopping by our channel. This is Tom Graham, Eric Mausner, personal injury lawyers in Florida. Feel free to reach out with any kind of questions or any way we can assist you at all.